Germany's Chancellor Olaf Scholz arriving on the red carpet and going into the palace as we speak. Interesting, actually, Oliver, that Germany, would you believe it, you look at the top 10 countries that are affected and have been recently affected by climate change events. Germany's number 3 on there, heavily affected in the past few years by flooding and still seen as a big threat there. I think Japan list on number 1, lots of smaller nations as well. How did you think Macron handled the sense that France was trying to would tax, for example, on airlines, extra taxes to lead the way, but other countries simply weren't doing it. So if they weren't going to do it, why should France?
Yeah, he has very much touted France's leadership in reducing carbon emissions over the past few years. As you mentioned, it's the very fact that if there's not an international cooperation and an international integration on all this, it's a rather futile exercise, and it's not simply governments that you have to get on board. It's also the private sector, and Emmanuel Macron mentioned that as well. It's very much about coaxing and convincing the private sector to come on board with this. There obviously will be a lot of resistance towards things such as taxes on financial transactions, taxes on shipping, also on air travel, and I think business air travel in particular is being targeted because that is actually where the profits are for airlines, so this is he's very much calling out for other countries to come on board, and it has to be other wealthy countries too. They're not all there, but they do, at least they are sending high-level delegations, at least some of them, and international institutions are there. The UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres is there. Also, the World Bank president, the managing director of the IMF are there as well.
The new World Bank president as well, isn't it? Yeah. I think in job for a month. We're just watching actually pictures of another big player, the president of Congo Brazzaville, Denis Sassou Nguesso. He's been in office since, I think, a couple of years now. Let's talk about, as we watch some of these leaders arrive. If you're a headline writer for the papers tomorrow, Oliver, and if you had to take away a key part of this Macron interview, it looks like it was mostly quite tame on his personal side, the difficulties he's been having diplomatically. What would you take away from that?
Well, I would say that it's probably would be a little bit unfair to say that it's a rearranging of the deck chairs, but it's trying to revolutionize without blowing up. Effectively, he genuinely wants a change in the system, but he doesn't really want to push it too far. He doesn't want to scare the horses of world capital, so to speak, and he thinks that they definitely still need to be on board, but there has to be a just way of global South countries accessing credit and so on and so to speak. It very much, it's a little bit inimical to say this, but very much if you had a similar interview with with the Barbados Prime Minister Mia Mota, she probably would have given a slightly different slant on things. She would have come at it from very much the other direction. It's certainly not the same thing that Emmanuel Macron is thinking of. He is very much thinking of in terms of how Western institutions can be got on board with this.